Okay, hello, LinkedIn world. So, if this broadcast is coming through loud and clear, then give me a sign of life, people. So, in the chat box, if you can just type hello, just let me know that you're getting this. Also, if you're joining this broadcast from outside Australia, I also like it if you just type the name of the city or the country where you're coming from. So that would be interesting to see as well. So we'll give it a couple more minutes before we kick the show off. So the way we're going to do this is I'll go through today's talk, which is about converting website visitors to eye care patients. And if you have any questions as we go through, then feel free to type them in the chat box. And also, at the end, I'll also give you another opportunity. We'll have a little Q&A if you still have questions that you want to ask. All right. Well, let's get started here. Okay. All right, so we're going to talk about converting website visitors to eye care patients. In today's session, we're going to look at the 5 must-have elements that you should have on your homepage and landing pages to boost trust and conversions. We're going to look at the most common mistakes that business owners make and how to fix them. And the one killer feature that will instantly improve your conversion rate. But first of all, who am I? So my name is Paul Salloway. I started digital marketing and web consulting way back in 2008, and I've been helping clients with their WordPress, SEO projects, and other digital marketing projects ever since. And at the end of 2022, I started Optics Digital Marketing to help, originally independent optometrists, but now helping eye care practitioners more generally. That includes ophthalmologists in Australia and New Zealand. I've written a few articles for My Vision Optometry magazine, which you can go and check out if you'd like. I've helped more than a dozen independent eye care practices in Australia so far. And I won't go through the full case studies. You can go back to the first LinkedIn Live where I presented these, but just to give you the headlines. So one of the clients I helped is a contact lens specialist practice, and we helped that practice to increase their web traffic by more than 60% within the space of a year. Another practice is specializing in ortho K fittings, and through SEO we doubled their web traffic in the space of 4 months. Another client of ours, they do a lot of dry eye work, and for that website we managed to double their traffic in the space of a month. So that one's going bananas at the moment. And another practice that I helped, they do a range of things, but among that is myopia control, and we're able to get a 10x increase in web traffic over the 18 months that we worked together. So as I said, you can go back and look at the first LinkedIn broadcast from, 4 weeks ago, if you want to see more about those case studies. So let's talk about the home page and landing pages, which is what some people also call the money pages, I guess, because these are the pages that people come to as typically the last port of call before they book a session with you, or before they book a visit to your eye care practice. That's why we call those money pages. So a home page is probably the most visited place on your website, so it makes sense that you'd want to optimize that for conversions, i.e. getting the patient bookings. But people come to your home page for all kinds of reasons. So think about brand searches. Like if somebody's searching for XYZ eye care, probably the first result that they're going to get in their Google search results is that your homepage. And so that's where they're going to come first, but we don't know exactly why. We don't know just from that brand search what they're looking for or what they're hoping to find. So the homepage needs to be a bit of a smorgasbord. It needs to be like a portal to the rest of your website. So somebody from the homepage, they should be able to easily find whatever it is that they're actually looking for. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be, putting elements on that homepage that also make it easy for someone to book. Like it might be the second time, for example, they've come to your website. They've already done their due diligence. They've thought about it, and this is like the second time, and they're ready to take action. So make it easy for them. A landing page is where you want to send someone when they're ready to convert from a website visitor to a booked patient. So what do we mean by a landing page? Well, typically your service pages are landing pages. So if you've got a page on your site that talks just about ortho-K for adults, right? That would be a landing page. That's where you'd want to send traffic if you're running a Google Ads campaign, or if you're sending out an email marketing campaign, which includes a link. In either of those cases, you get to determine where you want people to go on your website. And so why send them to the homepage, which is that smorgasbord experience, when you want them to really go and take a particular action? In that case, you should send them to the service page. And I think the same applies for frame pages. Like if you're an optometrist, you've probably got some high-end designer frames. People are looking for those. So those pages on your site that talk about that particular brand that you carry, when somebody clicks on the link, that's where you want them to go, and they're probably ready to take action as well. They're already probably quite far along on the customer journey, where they're at the point where they want to come and visit your store and try them on. So again, I think you should think about those pages, the designer brand frame pages, as landing pages as well. Does that make sense so far? If it does, can you just type a 1 in the chat box, so I know that I'm hitting the target before we move on. All right, so what are some of the must-have elements for your homepage and landing pages? Well, I think the first one is we need to have a clear headline and or sub-headline that tells people they're in the right place. It should clearly communicate what group of patients or customers you serve. So, okay, thank you, Victor. So so it's okay to mention the name of your brand, if that's XYZ Eye Care, for sure. But usually in the heading or in the top part of the website, what we call the hero section, this is the part that appears, at the top of the page. There should be something that communicates or calls out the group of people that you're serving. Now that could be a geographic group. So it could be something like serving eye care patients in Newcastle or something like that, right? Or it could be calling out a particular demographic, like you might say something like precision eyewear for those who demand sophistication, something like that, right? So you're sort of saying something about your ideal client in that case, your ideal patient. There should be some imagery that also supports the headline. There's I think one of my favorite marketing books is a book called Story Brand. It's written by a guy called Don Miller. He still does his thing in the United States. And he says that like your website should be simple enough to understand that even if a caveman came to your website, it would pass the grunt test. Somebody who's even pre-literate should be able to figure out, okay, in general terms, this is what this website is about. This is what these people do. And I think, if your site doesn't have any imagery, that's a problem. I think if you're using stock photos, that's probably better than nothing. But I think original photos are always best. Because people can understand the authenticity when they see it. And I think another thing too is I often see on optometry websites where the website owners post photos of an empty shop, and I guess that's fine, but I think it would be a lot more welcoming if as a website browser I can see photos of the people that are actually in the practice, who are the people who are working there. Because eye care, it's a face-to-face business. It's a high touch occupation. So you want to sort of make yourself as familiar as you can with people before they reach the point where they make that booking. You should articulate the problem that you solve, or the goal that you help your patients or customers achieve. Because if you're not solving a problem, then what's the point, right? So there must be something that you're helping people to do or achieve in their lives. Otherwise there's no purpose. So that problem could be, I find it really hard to find a pair of glasses that I feel matches my self identity. And maybe I've got a bit of a flamboyant style, and I think that most of the glasses on the market are too boring, right? So if that's the case, and if you solve that problem, then that's what your website should say. If I've got kids and I'm worried about the fact that they spend far too much time looking at digital screens, and I'm concerned about myopia, I'm looking for a strategy to do something about it, and that's what you do, then your website should speak to that problem as well. And I think don't be afraid to raise the stakes, right? So there's a success story here, but there's a failure story as well. So if you take action and find the perfect pair of frames that help you to stand out from the crowd, that's the success story. If you don't take action, then you don't get a second chance to make a first impression, and you just blend into the masses. That's a failure. So I think any good story, and remember, marketing is all about storytelling. Any good story raises the stakes of success and failure, and that's what you should think about. I think you should also include some risk reduction elements in there as well. So, as humans, there have been psychological studies that have been done on this, and people are more motivated to avoid loss than they are motivated to achieve gain. So people are really worried. And I mean, let's face it, getting someone to take care of your eyes, there isn't a much bigger responsibility that I can think of than that. So you want to reduce the risk factor by including social proof. So things like the number of Google review ratings, your average Google star rating, the client testimonials, right? APRA compliant, of course. I don't have my big fat disclaimer sign with me today, but yeah, so do your own research on what is APRA compliant and what isn't. Professional accreditations, like if you're a member of the Orthokeratology Society of Oceania. If that's you, then put that on your website. So all of these sort of badges, professional and business affiliations, they all give people a sense that, okay, we can trust these guys. If you've got any like product or service guarantees for the products that you sell, mention them. talk about what insurance cover is available. Trial options, like sometimes people can get like trial contact lenses if they're not sure that's for them. So if you do have that kind of thing, then for sure mention it. So you're all about reducing the risk factor for people. And the fifth and last point is have a clear call to action. So that could be like book now. It could be request an appointment. Make the next step in the journey crystal clear. So nobody should ever be in a situation where they want to take action, but they don't know what to do next, right? So that should never happen. So always have a clear call to action. So at any point in the journey, it's easy for anyone to take the next step. So does that all make sense so far? If it does, drop a 2. Just type number 2 in the chat box. I just want to make sure that I haven't lost anyone yet. So type a 2, guys, if that all makes sense so far, or if you have a question, drop the question in the chat box. All right. So what are some common mistakes that I see people make with their websites? I think one is being too vague. I think some people, they try to be too clever or too cute, but really, clarity wins every time. So where possible, use everyday language in a conversational tone. Like if your website says vision for tomorrow, I mean, what does that mean even? I have no idea, right? And I've seen website headings like that, and it's really, you're not impressing anyone. I think another problem is being overly verbose, like using big words when simple ones would do. Like I was chatting with a ophthalmologist the other day about their website, and they had on their homepage, they had book a complimentary consultation today. And I said, well, I understand what that means, but rather than complimentary, why not just say free? It's the same thing. So use 4 letters instead of 13. Use 1 syllable instead of 5. Keep it simple. The old KISS principle, right? So people don't really read on websites. If you give them like a wall of text, they're not going to read it. People skim, they scan. So use simple words, short sentences, short paragraphs, bullet point lists, headings, subheadings, icons, graphics. Just really break it down and make it super simple for someone to get the key information that they need especially from your money pages. Now on a blog article, if you want to go into it a bit more depth, then that's fine. But I think that on these types of pages that we're talking about, you really want to boil it down as much as you can. Don't use jargon. Like if don't assume that everyone's got a background in eye care. Like if you say, don't forget to bring in your RX to the next appointment. So the average civilian out there is going, RX. What does that mean, RX? It couldn't be prescription because that starts with a P. So you're just losing people. Any kind of medical jargon, you really don't want to use at all. Keep it at a level where somebody with a very basic understanding of English even can understand what it is that you're offering and what you want them to do. Another mistake I often see is confusing navigation. So for example, sometimes like to get to a certain page, there might be one option up in the main navigation that has one label, and then there's another option down in the footer with a totally different label. And so my poor brain's thinking, well, why are there two ways to get to this page? Why do they have different labels? So you're making me think. Okay, so this is another one of my favorite marketing books of all time. Is called Don't Make Me Think by a guy called Steve Krug, and his argument is that like as humans, we don't want to expend more brain energy than we have to. So if you're making people really struggle to understand something, or you're adding confusion and complexity, they're going to bounce eventually. I think another mistake is not using patient or customer-centric messaging. So your website should always be addressing the question of, for every visitor, of what's in it for me. You know, the old joke that WIIFM is everyone's favorite radio station. So that's what you should be thinking about when you're crafting copy for your pages. I just want to give you an example of what I'm talking about here. So I don't know if you know what syntonics is. You probably all do, because you're experienced medical professionals. But I never went to medical school. But I have looked at more optometry websites than I care to remember, so it's not my first rodeo. But this is the first time that I saw any reference to something called syntonics. So, and on this website, I've redacted the name of the practice, obviously, but it said this. It says, so I'm reading verbatim here. So, at XYZ Eye Care, we have taken the time to investigate the latest innovative interventions for visual health to provide unmatched care to our community. After meticulous research and consideration, we have incorporated syntonics therapy into our vision therapy services to treat those with inefficient visual function. As we offer behavioral optometry services, we found this treatment useful as an adjunctive to vision therapy and would be beneficial for our patients of all ages. So what's wrong with that? Well, I think a couple of things. So one, I think it's very vague about the benefits on offer here. I mean, useful as an adjunctive to vision therapy. I mean, I don't really. It would be beneficial for our patients of all ages, sure, but what are those benefits? I don't get it. And another thing, remember what I just said about verbose. So there's a lot of words here like meticulous research. So I think that it could be just simplified. You're making me try and pass through a lot of complicated language here, and I've got to be honest. I read this probably 3 or 4 times, and I still didn't understand what it is that syntonics is. So, but with a little help from our friend ChatGPT, I recrafted this, and let me share that with you. So, at XYZ Eye Care, many patients visit us seeking better focus, less eye strain, and more comfortable vision. That's why we've introduced syntonics therapy, a gentle, light-based treatment designed to improve how your eyes communicate with your brain. If you struggle with reading, concentration, or depth perception, this could be a simple yet effective way to enhance your vision. Many children and adults have already seen the benefits. Book an appointment to find out if it's right for you. So there's something else I did in there. I wonder how many people caught it. In the original text, there's a lot of usage of the of pronouns like we, our, us. So in the original text, they were talking about the practice, whereas in my version, I'm using your eyes, your brain, you struggle, your vision. So it's all about making the messaging customer centric. Remember what I said. So WIIFM, what's in it for me? And that's the approach that I think you've got to take when you're creating copy for your pages. And the last little nugget I'll throw out there is, as I said, so eye care is a face-to-face business. and you really should be injecting some of your personality into the business. So there should be photos on there of at least the principals of the practice, ideally photos of the staff, photos of your reception area, photos of the front of the store, photos of the consultation room. So when I turn up for an appointment, I should feel as though I already know the place. I feel like I should feel like I'm home, because I've already familiarized myself with it. So yeah, don't be afraid to put a little bit of personality into your website. So I think there are too many bland, sort of generic looking websites out there, and those aren't going to be the ones that are successful in booking patients. So that makes sense. Anyone not clear about any of those points? So if that makes sense for you, type a 3 in the chat box. All right. Well, I said at the beginning that that there's one killer feature that you should add, and that is video. So, and I realize that's probably going to be outside the comfort zone for a lot of people, but I strongly believe one of the most reliable ways that you can succeed in business is to do the thing that others aren't brave enough to do. So if you are able to just get out of your comfort zone and start getting in front of a camera, then that's going to put you an advantage. And it does create that intimate connection. So if you can make a video talking about either yourself or talking about the services or the products that you offer, that's really engaging. People will watch videos before they read text. So that people are much more likely to convert into a booked appointment if you've got a video of yourself on one of your money pages. So video is a proven, it's a winner. It's a proven way of building up the know, the like, and the trust factors that patients need before they decide to book an appointment with you. And particularly in a world now, in a world where AI is commoditizing a lot of text-based knowledge, video is still hard for machines to convincingly fake. I mean, I know there are some deep fakes out there, but I think it's we're not quite at the stage yet where AI can convincingly replace real people, I believe. So by getting your face on video, letting people hear your voice, that could be the deciding factor in whether or not they choose you as their healthcare professional. And while adding video to your website is a great start, it's really just the tip of the iceberg of what you can do with video marketing. So if you'd like to know more, then I suggest you check out an article which I wrote recently for My Vision magazine. I'll drop a link for that in the show notes and the comments under this LinkedIn post. All right, so before we wrap up, I wanted to give you some pet peeves. They say pet peeves should be kept on a leash, but I'm going to share them with you anyway. So one of them is welcome to. Like, I think this has got a very 90s vibe to it. When I see a website that says welcome to XYZ Eye Care, I want to jump up and start doing the Maharena. But the main thing that bothers me about this is because it doesn't really mean anything. It's just adding noise, and it's kind of a waste of valuable screen real estate. So anytime you've got welcome to then I think you're missing an opportunity there to say who you help, what makes you special, what you do even, right? Another is sliders. Like, this is, I think that it's very old school these days, but a lot of people still use them. So you've probably seen it where at the top of the page there'll be like an image with some text on it, and then after a few seconds it'll slide to the next one. So there are a lot of problems with that. Like one is that often these slides are set up on an auto timer thing, and some people are not fast readers, so that can be a frustrating experience. But I think the main one is that most people, probably 90% of people, are not going to hang around to see what you've got on slide 2. So if you've got a message that's worth worth people seeing, but you're putting it on slide 2, then a lot of people probably aren't going to see it, and they're certainly not going to see whatever you've got on slide 3. So I think it's just a wasted opportunity, and also by having more images on the page, it does slow down the page speed. It slows down the time it takes for that web page to load, especially on mobile. And we know that slow websites, can lose people. So, you should try to do whatever you can to speed up the the time it takes for someone to load your web page in their browser. And so sliders definitely don't help that. And another one, and this is a simple one, but it's unfortunately common, is sometimes I find I've got to scroll the whole page just to find an address. So that's frustrating because I don't know, like if you're a bricks and mortar business in particular, if you're just e-commerce, it doesn't really matter so much. But if you're a bricks and mortar business, I need to get some, mental visualization of where you are before it makes sense for me to dig any further or learn any more about your business. So your address should be at the top of the page. So those are just some personal things that I think that everyone should be mindful of. Now, just another tip: frequently asked questions. Patients love frequently asked question lists. So you should, at the bottom of your homepage, at the bottom of your landing pages, don't be afraid to stick a list of FAQs, and ideally have like the toggle headings. So you know what I mean. If somebody clicks on the question, then they get the answer pops out below them. And I think that these are really good because it puts the user in the driver's seat, and they're in control of their own journey. So they can seek answers to any objections, doubts, concerns they have without worrying about less relevant details. So it doesn't feel as overwhelming. And you can use, I think you can use the FAQ to really answer any information gaps that people might have when they're pretty far along the journey already, when they're pretty close to booking an appointment with you, but maybe they might have some nagging questions about like where you're located, how to get there, public transport routes, parking options, what payment options do you take, do you bulk bill, all these sorts of things, what they should bring to the consultation, what they should expect immediately after the treatment. All of these, when people have these type of questions, they're already pretty close to making the commitment. And so an FAQ list at the bottom of your page, I think, is a good place to really get them over that last hurdle. All right, so what are the takeaways from today? Well, I think you should get someone with a fresh pair of eyes, no pun intended, get someone with a fresh pair of eyes to take a look at your website and ask them for specific feedback. So, and I'm really not talking about asking if they think it's a nice design or whether it looks beautiful. That's really not the point. I mean, that's always good to have. It should at least look professional, but you want to have at least be comfortable that your site is easy for people to navigate and get the information that they need out of it. So what I would suggest is just recruit someone, ideally someone who's never seen your website before. Sit them down at a computer and give them like a list of 3 things or 4 things to do, and then stand there, watch them, say nothing, get them to articulate their thoughts as they go through it. So those tasks might be something like show me where this website explains what XYZ treatment is, explains what, what ortho-K treatment is. Tell me how to make an appointment next Monday. Find a page which shows images of XYZ brand, whether that be Tom Ford or Silhouettes or Gucci or whatever. Does this business accept Amex card payment for services? So these are very specific questions, and I guarantee you will learn a lot if you set someone the task of doing these things on your website and just get them to tell you what they're thinking as they navigate through your site. Without fail, it always turns up something that's quite thought-provoking. Now there are actually services that'll do this in a sort of at scale, in a sort of organized way. There's one company I've used in the past. It's called UserFeel, I think, or userfields.com. And they have like a panel of people, of strangers, but you can pick people. You can select a group of testers who you think maybe fits your target demographic, and give them some tasks like this, and they'll actually screen record, and you'll get like a bunch of 20-minute screen recordings that you can watch and hear them speaking about how they're performing these tasks. And like I said, it's really interesting to do. Another thing I'd like you to do is buy a tripod for your smartphone. Now you can pick them up on Amazon for as little as about $20, I think. But just something stable where you can stick your phone on there. And find a place where there's good lighting. So natural lighting is usually best, but make sure it's good lighting. And then have a go at recording some videos where you explain, what your business is, what are the key services that you offer, what are the benefits for specific types of patients. So just have a go at recording yourself on video. And at first it's going to be probably uncomfortable for you, but you'll get used to it. And I want you to take the best one and put it on your website. And I think you'll find, hey, that wasn't such a burden after all. And I think you'll find that the feedback you get from doing that is quite positive. And the last one here is something I haven't really talked about much in this video, or up to this point, is email. Now, I think I probably will do a LinkedIn live presentation about that in the coming weeks, but not everyone is ready to get married and get hitched when they go on a first date. Okay, let's put it that way. So sometimes you gotta date a few times before you're ready to walk down the aisle. So the same thing happens with your website. So you shouldn't expect everyone who comes to your website the first time to immediately book to book an appointment with you. So in addition to your main call to action, it never hurts to have a secondary call to action, which would be like giving away something for free, like a freebie, a downloadable PDF, something that offers genuine value, but which you could produce and give away at scale. And that person provides their email address, and then they become part of your email marketing list. So you can keep that relationship going over time until they're ready to get hitched and become a patient. So that I think that's a really underutilized promotional channel, and I'm going to talk more about that in the coming weeks. But that's something that you should start thinking about as well. All right, so that brings us to the end. So if you'd like to ask me more questions, not about Google reviews, that was last week's topic, but if you'd like to ask me more questions about this presentation, you can get in touch either through my website at opticsdigital.net, or contact me through LinkedIn, or you can email me directly, paul@opticsdigital.net. All right, so before we go, last chance, guys. Does anyone have a question that they'd like to pop in the box? All right, all quiet's on the Western Front, so we'll leave it there then. So I'm going to be doing another one of these presentations next week. If you've got some topic that you'd like me to talk about, or something you'd like to learn more about, then leave a comment in the LinkedIn comments, and I'll consider doing a presentation around that topic. Okay. All right. So all right. Thanks everyone. Take care. Particularly if you're in Queensland, there's a nasty cyclone on the way. Cyclone Alfred. Okay. So bye till next time, everyone. Bye bye.